Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Emily Henry Book Club. I feel like this will be an annual revival for for the book club. We are waiting on Yolanda, but she will be joining us soon. But we are going to be talking about Emily Henry's newest book today, which is Great Big Beautiful Life, which I don't know, Evie, if you've seen this now, but I went to Barnes and Noble last week, and the copies we have all have this embedded sticker that we can't remove. The new Barnes and Noble ones don't have that sticker. So,
Another trucker.
yeah, I know. They were real sneaky about it because they wanted everyone to get the Reese's one originally. And now that we're getting further, do you have one without it? Because it's like a different color. Yeah.
This is the Barnes and Noble one. It's got like this.
Yeah. So this one is more of a reddish orangey pink, and the other one is more pink. Yeah, you can see the difference right there. So yes, Evie has a beautiful collection of these books. I'm having a custom Laura and Evie sticker put on mine. Hey, it gets our seal of approval because we'll talk about this a little bit more when Yolanda gets here. But
She has her own opinions. I'm gonna just say it now.
yeah, Evie and I are very much pro Great Big Beautiful Life, and Yolanda is less pro Great Big Beautiful Life. But I think it's interesting because we've talked about this before with our other Emily Henry Book Club chats, in that you and I prefer Happy Place above the others. And I feel like this is more akin to Happy Place. So that's vibe-wise what I've been seeing on Reddit, that people who generally like Happy Place quite a bit are the ones that have been vibing the most with Great Big Beautiful Life, and people who prefer things like Book Lovers are not. So yeah.
I do that could be it, but I think the key indicator is if you've read Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo versus if you have not.
I have not.
I have not either.
So that might be part of it. That might be part of it, which was so interesting. So for people who are not familiar, I mean, I would hope that you are familiar with Emily Henry if you're at the Emily Henry Book Club. But if not, Great Big Beautiful Life is Emily Henry's newest book, and it is a really beautifully done story, in our opinion, of two essentially timeline narratives that are intermingling throughout the story, because the protagonist of this book is Alice, who is a journalist who is interviewing a sensation of the past, of paparazzi sensation, when the paparazzi basically became a thing, and that is Margaret. And you really get these parallel stories of Alice's story, which introduces us to Hayden, who is the love interest of Great Big Beautiful Life, and then we have Margaret's beautiful story that's interwoven throughout. I loved it.
As did I.
Yeah. So the thing that was interesting about this, though, is that a lot of people have compared it to The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. And Evie and I virtually went to, I wish this would have been an in-person thing. I would have been frothing the whole time, even possibly even more than I already was. But we did the virtual attendance for Emily Henry and Julia Whalen's discussion of Great Big Beautiful Life. And in that discussion, we found out that they hold like the most epic writers conference. And it's not a conference, it's just like a writers getaway retreat type thing that involves Julia Whalen, Emily Henry, Taylor Jenkins Reid, and Jasmine
Hillary.
Yeah. So when she was initially coming up with the concept of this book, she actually found it was more akin to Daisy Jones and the Six. And it's funny now that it's been rewritten and reworked that a lot of people are comparing it to The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, because Taylor Jenkins Reid was actually really instrumental for helping Emily figure out where she wanted to go, narratively speaking. So I thought that was really funny.
And it was funny that Emily Henry saw the one review where they referenced Great Big Beautiful Life as just reheated
Yeah.
The reheated nachos of Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. And she said, to paraphrase, listen, at least it's, mentioned.
Exactly.
I'll take reheated nachos as long as I'm
Absolutely.
prepared.
And I mean,
So
that's the thing. She was like, Taylor Jenkins Reid, how could you go wrong with that comparison?
yeah,
So she is more than okay with that. But I mean, I haven't read the book, but I did recommend it to my best friend who has read both and she loved both independently. And she's only read a few Emily Henry books at this point. She's read Funny Story, Happy Place, and this one, I believe. And I think this is her favorite of that group. She's Great Big Beautiful Life, Happy Place, and then Funny Story.
yeah,
So
this is Great
yeah,
Big Beautiful Life is like this close from taking over Happy Place, but
yeah. But Happy Place
I
is still cemented in first place.
yeah, I think, like, craft-wise, I think this is her best book, like, which
Yeah,
one would hope that as one writes more,
we get better.
they get better and better.
Yeah.
And I think this is a definite step up, like, you can feel that in the writing, that
Hmm.
she really stretched herself and she got out of her comfort zone,
Yeah.
um, a bit, but it's still very familiar, very, very much
That's
Emily
the
Henry.
thing. I found it very much the formula that Emily Henry does. And you and I talked about this a little bit off screen before, but a lot of people were saying that they didn't love the two timelines for Margaret and Alice because they didn't feel like they got enough of the Alice and Hayden. But I feel like we've seen this work in her other books, and I mean, like, the major example I used was People We Met on Vacation, which is Evie's least favorite of all of Emily Henry's books, but it's one of my
But
favorites.
also in
So
Happy Place. You
but
get
exactly, but also
the
Happy Place. We have the back and forth. We have in the past, we have in the present, or we have in the past and the not so distant past. And with People We Meet on Vacation, we have, I think it's like 12 or 13 years of summers to go through. And I love that about her. I mean, it does feel like it's a formula that she repeats because she does it well. And I
yeah.
think here we go. Here is our third contingent, that it is a component of her writing that I genuinely really love and I find comfort in it. And I find it makes for interesting chapter breaks and narrative breaks in the plot, even though like you're itching for at times for the romance to kind of amp up and get going. Like I like pulling back a little bit because it just makes it that much sweeter for when it does blossom and does happen. But Yolanda, you can now tell us about your wrong opinions about Great Big Beautiful Life.
Hi, I am here to rain on the parade. I'm so sorry. Also, sorry for being a little bit late. I
You are fine.
completely underestimated or overestimated. I overestimated how fast I could walk, basically, by a good bit. But I
It's
made
8 minutes. It's not the biggest overestimation.
Yeah, are we giving general thoughts? Is that what we're
Yeah.
starting with? Yeah, I was very, very disappointed, unfortunately. I enjoyed it a lot. I was loving it for like the first half. And then it's not like it fell apart for me. It's more like it didn't go where I was hoping it would go, or it just ran out of steam
Mm.
with it. So I keep telling Carlos I didn't hate it because he was like, "You're just complaining about it. You hated it." I'm like, "No, I didn't hate it. I didn't hate it. I don't think it's a bad book. Um, it was just not for me, unfortunately." I'm very, very sorry to say.
Yeah, that's a bummer for you.
Yeah, I'm very happy that you guys like really enjoyed it though.
Yeah, I think for me, in terms of starts, it was the slowest start, but I wasn't upset by that. I think part of it too is that it's hard because I try to go into reads without any preconceived notion or idea, but like my algorithm was feeding me stuff about this book. So I just
Mm.
couldn't avoid it. And people were like, this is not a typical Emily Henry book. It's not, a romance. And I was like, oh, okay. So I think I went into it with really a preconceived idea that I wasn't going to enjoy it as much as her other books. I never really thought I wasn't going to like it, just because stylistically I jive with her writing and her voice so well that wasn't a major concern, but definitely was a slower start for me. But I found that as soon as we met Jody and Margaret, I was like, oh, I'm interested as to what this little scenario is. And I feel like part of it too is that, and I could be wrong, like someone can fact check me on the Emily Henry Bible, but I feel like in terms of getting a foundation with the love interest, Hayden's comes the furthest in the book. Because like with Poppy and Alex, it's like pretty much right at the beginning, with them being in this bar and they're like, Poppy's pretending to be somebody else. Nora and Charlie, it's at the restaurant really early on. Happy Place, we hear of Win, like as soon as Harriet arrives, basically, at the beach house. I'm trying to go through all of them now in my head. Beach Read, it might be a bit slower, but like you learn of Gus's presence really quickly because he's the neighbor at the house, and that happens really fast. And am I missing one? Funny story with Miles is like right off the bat. So I don't know if Hayden's is just like, if that's an opinion or like a factually based thing that we get the introduction to Hayden quite a bit later, because like we sort of see him when he comes into the house, right? As she's exiting.
Yeah, chapter 1 for sure. And then
right. But like, when's their first interaction type thing? Is it like the end of chapter 2, chapter 3-ish?
It was the middle of chapter 2.
Okay. So I don't know if for me, it just felt a little bit slower, but I think it's because the relationship aspect wasn't the thing that the book led with, which I think is probably thematically different from the other books. Not that they've all been romantic relationships right off the bat, obviously, because they hadn't. Like the Nora and Charlie one kind of sets that up, like enemies to lovers thing, as much as we're going to get with an Emily Henry. I feel like from the get-go, Alex and Poppy are friends, so there's a relationship aspect. But with Hayden, it's more he's just set up as competition rather than a relationship early on. Yeah. So I don't know if that's why it felt a little bit different, but again, it didn't really bother me.
That's interesting because I didn't really notice that, I don't think. You're right, though, now listing them all, like there is also often like a pre-established relationship between them, like before the book starts. And here, yeah, she knew of him, right? Like from having read his book, but they had never met. I didn't really think about that. For me, I actually felt that once, just the impression, like I have nothing to back this up, that as I was reading it, I felt like their romance was actually really fast, compared to like a lot of her other books. Like they meet, they're into each other, they flirt, they hang out. And then I think my main issue with their romance was that I didn't really buy it being dragged out, or like what the obstacle was. Like I understand like, oh, their competition and like it can be a bit awkward and all that, but they did talk about it and behave like adults, and like it's not like they stopped hanging out or like, you know, so I was a bit like, yo, just date, like you're basically dating already. So I think the like obstacle and the tension and the conflict, if you want to call it that, felt the weakest for me out of her books. And I think that impacted me like enjoying the romance aspect of it specifically, because I did buy the chemistry initially. And then there's a moment where she thinks to herself that she's falling in love with him, and I was like, really? Already? And I think it's the first time with an Emily Henry book that she tells me that without me having already gotten there by like their interactions, if that makes sense, which is like purely just subjective, I guess. But yeah.
Are we just getting into spoilers, by the way?
I think we can now, yeah. And I know Evie has a lot to say on this topic in particular.
I can see that. For me, it felt like it it was I feel like Alice and Hayden's relationship and their quote unquote romance was kind of a mishmash of enemies to lovers, friends to lovers, and then just blossoming from there. There were elements of both because I felt like they were set up as rivals, but then they have this kind of banter that it seems more friendly, like him saving her, like from the weirdo at the hotel.
Yeah.
But just moments that kind of struck me as I was reading them that I'm like, oh, this is like this is the right person for her because of the things that her situationship guy was not doing. Like Hayden made plans with them for her and asked her opinion and didn't, just kind of leave her hanging and having, I don't know, without expectations of what was going on. So I think he was a great foil for her situationship with whatever that guy's name was.
Theo, was it Theo?
Yeah. Yes.
Baby.
Yeah.
I don't know why Theo sounds right in my head. So if it's not, it's now Theo, but that's fine.
So he was
can agree to call him Theo.
Yeah. So Hayden was doing the little things that Theo, officially, unofficially, Theo, was not doing, that she was able to recognize that, hey, someone can actually do things for me and value me as a person. And I took those little moments as like kind of keys and indications of the developing romance. And in regards to the conflict, I do agree to a bit that it felt the weakest.
Agreed.
But at the same time, I feel like Alice definitely wanted to take the next steps and like.
Oh, girl, did she ever?
Come on, let's do this. And Hayden was the one that was hesitant. And I think because we didn't get his perspective, I think if we had gotten like more of his reasoning why, it might have made more sense. And then the whole NDA thing, I was like, I thought that was a clever way to keep the miscommunication
trope
without making it obvious. So
I agree, that I think it definitely was the weakest part of the book for me. But I also felt that one of the things I really love with Emily Henry is that I feel I know a character generally like halfway through the book. I have a really good feel and vibe for that character. The ones that I would say I have felt that way the most for have been Harriet and Nora, because Nora is so strong in her personality, which I love. And Harriet is so tepid in her personality of not wanting to rock the boat with people. And Alice, I feel, is kind of that middle ground where she has never really been able to fully be herself with her family, but simultaneously is very comfortable in who she is. So it felt like a really different take on a character for Emily Henry for me, because Alice it's definitely the grumpy sunshine trope within this book with Hayden and Alice, which I enjoyed. But Alice is very much that sunshine, sparkly personality. And you can tell that with all the interactions with her mother, like she does not feel comfortable presenting herself in the way that she truly is with her family. And she doesn't seem to be fully comfortable presenting herself the way that she is with Theo, and that she says a lot of the time that she walks back what she would have said or would have done and things like that. And with Hayden, it seems like that's the first time in her life that she's actively been in a relationship with someone where she's being fully herself, saying the things that she wants without reservation and without fear of judgment on those things. So I think for me, I was able to get past the rapidness of the developing of that relationship, because that, I think, was the thing that was the most important to Alice. And the fact that she felt she was being seen and valued for who she was, and her opinion was being seen and valued for what it was by someone that she initially viewed to be superior to her. Because like in terms of employment superior to her. I wouldn't say in terms of like personality or anything like that. But that for me was my justification for it, I guess. But the thing that I would say now that I'm talking about it, that was the weakest point of the book for me, was that I wanted more development with Alice's family, because I felt like the sister is mentioned so often, and like that part of it is a really big motivator for Alice. And I'm like, I don't buy this in the way that I feel like I do with Happy Place, where Harriet is like so worried about her parents and rocking that boat and all those types of things. So I feel like we've seen Emily Henry capable of giving us that full on connection explanation of the reasoning. And that for me was probably the bit that was lacking the most in this book. And I would have liked to see more happen just with the relationship with her and her mom.
I would agree with that. I think everything that you've both just said, I can see there being like brushstrokes for, but I wanted more of all of it. And like a huge part of that obviously is just that this is not just a romance, and this is
Yeah.
just half of the book.
Yeah.
Which is fine. Like, it's fine that she wanted to focus on something else, and like this is almost more of the subplot than like I would almost consider the like Margaret stuff to be like, and you know,
The main plot.
yeah, like the main plot, but at least it's 50-50, right? So
Yeah.
but I really felt the fact that we don't have that much time with either. Where like there's interesting bits there with her family that like I found really interesting. And if we're talking spoilers, like the last conversation with her mother was one of my favorite parts, if not my favorite scene in the entire book.
Yeah. Evie loved that scene. Yeah.
I thought it was great. That's like great Emily Henry, but I wanted more like leading up to that. And like I completely agree, Laura, about the sister. She was mentioned so often, and then she doesn't show up at all. And I felt like we didn't really deal with, okay, so what is it about their relationship, and how, like, where does that go? And I felt the same about like Hayden. Like Evie, you were saying, oh, we don't have his POV, so maybe if we did, we'd get more of like why he is so hesitant, and like why he is so worried about her hating him, right? If like he gets the job over her. And yeah, I just needed more. And I don't think, like, I was thinking, like, am I just upset that I wanted a romance and it's not just a romance?
Yeah.
I'm fine with that. I think I just needed more in order to really believe it or be super invested in it. And if it was just going to be a subplot, I just would have preferred if they just got together halfway through, you know? I felt like it felt a bit dragged out. It felt a bit half-baked to me. Like all the right elements are there, but it didn't quite
underdone.
Together. Yeah.
It's got a soggy bottom.
I will say that if I were to nitpick, which actually is more than a nitpick, it's something that's kind of bugged me a little bit. The one thing that frustrates me is the whole Nicolette thing about Hayden's mom. Oh, that's her middle name. Okay, that could have been explained. Like, was it part of like the adoption agreement that the middle name has to be Nicolette? It didn't make sense.
I thought of that too. Yeah.
So
that's funny. I actually called it like really early on. I was like, oh, Hayden's related to Margaret. Like that to me was pretty obvious from the onset. So like, I feel like that emotional punch and oomph was lacking for me a little bit at the end, as opposed to some of the other books where I was just like, yeah, I kind of saw that coming, but like I wasn't upset about it at all type thing. In regards to what you're saying, Yolanda, though, I get it. But it's funny because like looking at it from both stories, I don't feel like I needed more of Margaret's story, like, which I loved. I really loved Margaret's story. And I felt like we had enough time with it for me to properly digest it. Like the thing with the Nicolette thing, like, sure, I found that was kind of a little
shoehorned in.
Yeah, a little bit. But I really like Margaret for me was probably my favorite character of the book, other than Jody. I really loved Jody because Jody was real sassy and that was enjoyable for me. But I liked getting that perspective. And it did really feel like a Vanderbilt family or a Hearst family that you were really digging into that like old money, what that looked like at the time type thing. And the tragedy that, you know, her life kind of becomes. Like my heart broke for Margaret. It was, you know, sad and things like that. But in regards to things feeling kind of like shoehorned in, for me, it was the ending, the very, very end of the book. I'm like, this moved real fast, like really, really fast. I'm like, I assume that she got pregnant like unexpectedly type thing, and it just like became a thing, and I was like, oh, this is quick. You know. And also just because it's like a personal gripe of mine. I mean, like, obviously people get pregnant all the time. This is very much just a me thing. I'm an IVF mom, so it took me forever to get pregnant. So when I read that people like look at someone and get pregnant, I'm like, okay. You know, like, for me it's just a bit irritating. But honestly, that was my other kind of like eyebrow raising thing.
Yeah.
But I loved the setting of the book. Like, it was the first book that we've gotten that has been, is it the first book we've had that's not in, no, because Book Lovers is in North Carolina. So I was like, I feel like it's the first book we've had outside of the Midwest region, but no, Book Lovers is in North Carolina. But I liked the vibe that she set up for the little island. And I really love Alice. Like, I really, really like Alice, and I super enjoy Hayden. And I think the dynamic between the two of them is really fun. And he doesn't super remind me of any of her other male leads.
Yeah.
I thought was good.
For me, for Alice, normally that type of overly optimistic, overly chipper sunshine characters would grate me.
Great on me. Yeah,
But
exactly.
I loved Alice, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I need to be more like Alice. She's so nice and sweet and kind and so optimistic.
Mm-hmm. Yolanda's like, eh.
Yeah, I'm thinking about how I want to phrase it because I'm the same. Like, I see the sunshine, like whatever grumpy trope, and I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
I honestly, I think like often when Emily Henry does a trope, I feel like, yeah, but it's not fully that trope. Like, you know, the way
Yeah.
book lovers is enemies to lovers, and you're
Yeah.
like,
And it's not.
they're not
Yeah.
really enemies. It's just a bad
No.
first impression.
Yeah.
I felt kind of like that with this, where like I never really saw Hayden as a thundercloud. Like maybe that's just the first impression of him, but like that's not
Mm-hmm.
really who he is.
No.
So yeah, I did like them. I felt like maybe both of them. I was gonna say Alice specifically, but maybe both of them have, to me, less defined personalities. Like you were saying, Laura, that like you feel like you know the characters like halfway
Mm-hmm.
through the book. Like I feel that less with both of them than I would most of her other books, at least.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Like Poppy
Specifically
is like,
Hayden. Yeah.
yeah, specifically, like, so again, like just less time with them, and that's fine. Like that wasn't like a huge issue.
Right.
What you said about the ending, I hated it. Like I hated that so much. Like it just, you know what? It did feel so shoehorned in. Like first I thought that the resolution between the two was very, very last minute, which is fine. And I did like, you know, what he says to her, and like they're like it's very good.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, why are we having a shoehorned in baby on the last page?
Yeah.
And honestly, I think a part of it is also me and my mood, and like you know, the world the way it is at the moment, and then like having this resolution of like, oh, into this big, great, beautiful life, or great
Yeah.
whatever. I was like, that doesn't feel right to me, like
Mhm.
right now in the circumstances that I'm reading it in. And like you said, it's so out of nowhere without any really prior conversation or like hint that that's where the
Yeah.
book is going, which like would be totally fine if that was, I don't know, like where it was going. Like I know they talk about like with Margaret about like,
Mhm.
family and all that.
Right.
But it wasn't clear to me as a theme. So then when there's suddenly like a baby, I was like, where is this coming from? This
Yeah.
feels almost like, I mean, I'm not saying that's what it is, but it felt like publisher interference, like the kind of thing of like, oh,
Mhm.
you have to wrap this up with a bow and they have to
Yeah,
get
they
like
need a happily ever
copies.
after with baby.
Exactly, which is not
Mhm.
what she has ever really done. Like she has very different kind of
The beach
endings and
read
like
for Evie.
You
Yeah.
mentioned being a beach read specifically.
Mhm.
yeah, like but she has specifically like not done that, right? Like so it's not like I know that Emily Henry doesn't need to do it. So I
Yeah.
don't know why she felt the need to do it for this one. It didn't feel right for me the way it was done. Like baby, fine, but the way the
Mhm.
baby was like, yeah, and now there's a baby and it's great.
Yeah.
It's like, what? Yeah.
The way that I kind of excused the stories, aka the epilogue, is that we don't know how much time has passed. Like obviously the book's already been published and it could have been published for, at least a year or whatever, and they still had to write it and all that stuff. But yeah, I assumed in my head canon that time had passed.
Yeah.
Whether that be a few years or 5 years, whatever. Because they mentioned that Margaret is moving a lot slower or whatever. And yeah, so but yeah, the baby coming unexpectedly, like they weren't planning to have a baby. Plenty of people don't plan to have children and they wind up
Mhm.
having children.
Yeah.
Um but yeah, so I just took it as
Yeah.
time had passed, like instead of 10 years later, it's just the story.
Right. I think I would have preferred it had it been something along the lines of, because Alice is a writer, she's really in tune with her feelings, that if she was penning it as a letter to their future baby, and like she wasn't yet pregnant, but it's like, we're starting to dream about you type thing, and like we can't wait for you to come into this great big beautiful life. Like that for me would have felt a bit more natural, I guess. I don't know.
Mhm.
But yeah, I never love that though. I never love a pregnancy trope or anything like that. Like I just don't like it. So for me, I'm like, no, get it out of my book. But all in all, what are things we did like? Because I feel like we've been focusing more on things we didn't like. So what are
My
the
bad.
things that we did enjoy? I like I said, I loved Margaret and Jody. Like I loved Margaret and Jody.
I Margaret's a great character. Alice is a great character, like by themselves. I am a sucker for letters,
Mm,
so the fact that Hayden writes Alice a letter at
mhm.
the end, and that's the thing that kind of I acknowledge it was very convenient and very quick, but again, I'm a sucker for letters, so
That's okay.
I loved that aspect, and I thought it felt, um, it
Yeah.
just gave me the warm and fuzzies. Um,
Mhm.
I did think of you with that.
Yeah, and you also messaged me at that point. You're like, "It's a letter." I was like, "Yep, here we are. It's good." Uh, Yolanda, did you like anything or love anything about the book?
Yeah, I mean, even though I think a lot of the stuff that I liked, I just like more in her other books. Like the banter is always good. Like
Always.
I always believe the chemistry between the characters, and it
Mhm.
was the same thing here. Like I was saying earlier, like, oh, I was very fast in the conflict and whatever, but I do buy them being into each other, like
Oh, yeah,
mentally and the
definitely.
way they talk to each other. So like that is always enjoyable. And whenever we got back to like them having conversations with each other, like Hayden and Alice, I was like always enjoying myself. So like that is, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the scene where she's at the bar/restaurant and orders that like hideous blue drink and then sees Hayden eating his salad in the corner, I thought perfection. Like, I love the setup of this. I love where it's going, and I really, really did enjoy it.
Oh no.
Oh, jeez.
Ollie is Caroline's new cat.
Oh, exciting. Congratulations. Welcome to the chaos if you didn't already have a cat. But yeah, so I agree. I enjoyed the banter. I agree. I think her banter is always really great. And I did the audio for this because I'm a sucker for a Julia Whelan read novel. And honestly, she delivered once again. I absolutely love how she narrated this. And I really did like the back and forth between the timelines. Like I did like it, but I agree with aspects of what you're saying, Yolanda, that I would have liked there to be certain things that were fleshed out a little bit more or given more time. But I don't wish that we would have had less of Margaret. I just wish that we would have had more of Alice. So had the book been a little bit longer, that for me would have been fine. But I feel like they were probably already pushing the limits of how long they can get away with.
Yeah, it was already what, 400 and a little over 400 pages, I think. Yeah.
418 is with the acknowledgments. So yeah, 416 is the set thing. And I don't know if this is telling or not, but this one took me the longest to finish, but I also don't know if it was because this is the first time that I've come into a new release for Emily Henry, and maybe I savored it more intentionally, knowing that I didn't have another book to jump into immediately. I still loved this book. Like, I still absolutely loved this book. But in regards to my rereading list, like, it probably won't be the first one that I reach for type thing. Because that seems to be people we meet on vacation. I love a good Alex Poppy vibe for a reread. But where does this fall in everyone's ranking? Obviously, Yolanda, this I would assume is your bottom.
It is my bottom. I was going to say, speaking of Alex and Poppy, there's a reference to them.
There sure is.
I love. That was actually, I was like, ooh.
So good. Yes. I love, she has, so all of her books are interconnected, which I love. In Beach Read or in Funny Story, they mention Gus and January from Beach Read. In this one, we get Poppy and Alex. Nora.
They mention Gus and January.
Nora and Charlie are Gus and January's editors, which is really fun and stuff like that. So all this stuff is intermingling. But like, it was such a quintessentially Poppy thing, how like she wasn't interested in what was going on and was more interested in Alex. And I was like, oh, I love them. I love them so much.
Yeah. I was like, oh, I know who that is.
I know exactly. And I love them. So yeah, but where does it fall in the rankings for everyone?
So this close from taking the top spot from Happy Place for me.
Aw, I'm very happy for you. That's nice. I wish it was like that for me. I really do.
You're still book lovers at the top, right?
Yeah, I think for me it would be Book Lovers, Happy Place. Really, really close together. It really just depends. Am I more in a
mood,
swoon romance kind of mood, or more in a like cry about?
Oh my god, all the crying.
Yeah, so like those two, and then probably I think Funny Story, Beach Read again, really close together. Then closely after, People We Meet on Vacation,
or You and Me on Vacation, yeah,
and then this one like a good bit. Like all of the others are like varying degrees of 5 stars. And this would be at the very bottom, unfortunately. I think my main issue with the Margaret bits were that I found them too similar to The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo.
We were talking about that before you hopped on. Yeah. And Evie made the point of saying that she thinks people who have read that book probably didn't enjoy this one as much, and people who didn't probably enjoyed it more, which is fair because Evie and I haven't read that.
That makes sense. Yeah. But Laura, where is it on your ranking?
That's a good question. I feel like it's probably, I thought initially it was right below Happy Place, but like now that I'm thinking about it, I think it's more in the middle. Happy Place is forever my number one. I love Happy Place so much, but I don't reread Happy Place as much as I reread the others because of what you said. Like I have to be in the mood that I know I'm going to cry, and it's going to be a catharsis for me when I read that book. So I save it for those moments of need. But
enough, Happy Place is the only one that I have reread. So
there
I
you
read
go.
it try. So there you go.
Exactly. I have now reread all of them other than Great Big Beautiful Life. But the one I've reread the most has either been Funny Story or People We Meet on Vacation. Because Alex makes me laugh hysterically and I love Miles. So I feel like it's probably Happy Place. Then Funny Story and People We Meet on Vacation is like neck and neck. Great Big Beautiful Life, Beach Read, and Book Lovers. Book Lovers for me is always going to be last because of Libby. Like I cannot get over Libby as a character. I reread it not that long ago and I was like, I'm gonna give this my best attempt. And I just do not like Libby as a character. So that was fine. But honestly, like I really do love them all. She is an author that I just connect with her voice and I will pick up everything she writes. I really do want to read her YA stuff to see how it kind of flows, because is it fantasy? Like I'm not sure if it's fantasy or not.
I don't know.
I think they are.
I also, yeah, like I don't know why I have this nagging feeling. I'm like, I think it's fantasy, but I really am not 100% sure. Did you order them? Atta girl.
Somebody has to take the plunge, so we can then keep doing these for
exactly until the next book comes out, which I'm hoping will be next year. But also, we'll have to do one
third one, and I just can't find it on my shelves
for when the Netflix People We Meet on Vacation comes out, because I'm so excited to watch that. I'm so excited.
Does that have a date?
It doesn't, but my gut feeling is August. And the reason I say that is because the special edition of People We Meet on Vacation is coming out in August. So I feel like that would be a good time to pair them.
That makes sense.
And Netflix tends to announce things like a couple months before they come out. So if it announces it in June for end of August type thing, I'm like, that would work. So I don't know. But I'm hopeful because I want it. I really, really want it. Yeah.
Also, it being the end of summer, that would make sense.
I think so too. Like there's a lot of good things that would align, I think, for it to work at that time period. But I think the cast that they have for it is great. So I'm really excited for it. Yeah, it's gonna be good. I'm excited. So any final thoughts on our Great Big Beautiful Life or Great Big Beautiful Disaster for your life?
I think for me, like I said, like the Margaret bits were too, like I kept thinking of Evelyn Hugo, so I didn't think it was bad, but it just didn't make me forget about Evelyn Hugo. So that was fine. I don't have like any huge criticisms with the actual writing in it. Like maybe, yeah, like some of the things, like the big twists or whatever, like, okay. Not sure if that completely lines up, but I wasn't like looking for, like puzzle pieces falling into place kind of thing anyway. So that was fine. It was mainly just Evelyn Hugo didn't get out of my head. So the comparison was constantly there. And I just thought that Evelyn Hugo was better. Maybe if I read it like the other way around, who knows? But like, that's just how I felt reading it. And then mostly, I think it's also just a mood thing. Like, I think as I was reading it, I was like, I don't know if I want to be reading about like rich white people right now, having rich white people problems, And like, that's just not fully fair of me to then judge the book by, because it's not a fault of the book. That's just what the book is about. And like, but I think as I was reading it, especially in that second half, I realized, oh, I think I'm just not in the mood for what this book is trying to be. So I think I have some criticisms that are like criticisms of like how she handles what she's trying to do, and others are just like, I just wasn't in the mood for that. So it is a little bit me.
I totally get that though, because there's certain things right now that I thought, oh, maybe I would read that. And I'm like, I can't read that with politically what's going on. Like, I'm not in the headspace to read that and not be rage. So yeah, I completely get that. But I mean, like, as if you're a mood reader, which I mean, I also am, I get it. Like, certain things are going to hit better at different times than they are, you know.
Yeah.
Which is why it'll be interesting when Evie rereads some of the Emily Henry books, if her opinion changes on like where they fall in the ranking for stuff.
I did get the UK editions of both Beach Read and You and Me on Vacation, and when I reread those two, I'm going to reread the UK editions.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see how I feel. I will say that oh my god, I just had the thought and it was leaving me.
You got the UK editions. People we meet on vacation.
So what I was gonna say. So we were saying before, we were talking about the Emily Henry Julia Whalen like virtual event that launched they did for the book. And Emily Henry acknowledged and made reference to a poor review of Great Big Beautiful Life, that it was referred to as the reheated nachos of Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. And to paraphrase Emily Henry, she's like, at least it's reheated nachos of Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. We're in the same sentence. So she's like, I'll take it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Agreed. But I'm just like, I agree. And like, I feel that I'll be curious to see where her next book goes, because I'm curious like which direction we're going to veer into, because it's funny because for a long time she didn't really embrace the romance author title. And with this book on her she doesn't tour Emily Henry, which like good for her. That's great.
Well, not physically, but like she goes.
That's what I'm saying. Like she'll do like a few things, but she doesn't do like crazy book tours that a lot of other people do. But in her interviews that she did this time for this book, people kept referring to her as a romance author, and she really wore that with a badge of honor. And she was like, I love being a romance author. And I'm like, that's really interesting now that you're promoting a book that's like the least romantic of all of the books. So I'm curious to see going forward if we're going to lean more into that contemporary fiction, or that my least favorite label of all time, women's fiction, or if we're going to kind of ebb and flow between romance and this, and like just see where she develops as an author, because obviously like she's transitioned in her writing before from having done YA to this. So it'll be curious to see if she sticks in this, or if we're kind of trending towards something different with her.
Yeah, that's interesting. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if she moved, like this is like her dipping toes, like transitioning into, because she's not like fully moving away from romance. Like there's a bit of a bridge, right? And like now people are like, oh, I've read her doing like contemporary fiction within the romance. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's where it goes. I will definitely read it, but I'll be sad if her next book isn't romance, because she is my one, like, yes, definitely will work for me romance.
I will say, so you were the one that got me started on contemporary romance, Yolanda, because you made that video over a year ago now. I read contemporary romance and blah, 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 blah. And you were talking about Emily Henry. And I was like, okay, I will give Emily Henry a try. And I have tried a few other authors. I have found that a couple work for me, and a couple now work for Evie with Lila Sage, which has just been like,
may I introduce you to
Lila Sage? Exactly. Cowboy romance is now Evie's new thing. And I also found I found a really good connection to Becca Mack's books, which are hockey romance, which I never thought I was going to vibe with. But like, her books are long and they are so character forward books that I absolutely love them. But Emily Henry is still like my go-to. If I say to myself I'm in a mood for a romance read, I almost always go back and reread an Emily Henry, just because I know it's like coming back into a warm hug that I'm going to feel very comforted, and I know what to expect. And her humor is always so beautifully done, and her character work is always so beautifully done. So I love her very, very much. She's one of my top 3 authors, I think, at this point. It's like a really weird melange of my like trinity of authors. It's her, Joe Abercrombie, and Sarah J. Maas. Like, what a trio.
I love it.
Oh, man. It is
Put
like,
them in a room together and let them interview each other. I would love to see that.
I feel like the vibes for that party would be fabulous. Like,
immaculate.
It would be, oh my God, it would be so good. Everyone would be plastered out of their mind, I feel like, and it would just be a great, great time. But I love that we have all not started as romance authors, and we have all found a home in Emily Henry. Even if all of the books don't necessarily hit the same way.
It is cool that we also all agree that we love Emily Henry and we love a lot of the same things about her, yet all of our rankings are different. Like I think Happy Place being super high, like co 1, 1, 2 is like the only thing we really have in common on our rankings, which is really cool. And I'm excited I've only reread Book Lovers so far, but I feel like there will be at least one more reread this year. Like I can feel the mood coming. Yeah. So at some point I'll just pick one up. Maybe Beach Read or Funny Story.
I was gonna say, I think it's gonna be Funny Story. Like that's the vibe I'm getting. I think it'll be Funny Story, which like honestly is so good on a reread. It's so good. But I loved Funny Story off the bat because I was talking to Evie about this. If people aren't on the Emily Henry Reddit, like I know Reddit can be a cesspool of humanity, but the Emily Henry Reddit is delightful and I love it so very much. And people on there will be like, what character do you see yourself as the most? And one person quoted that they were Daphne from Funny Story, specifically because Daphne throws the Jordan almonds at Peter's head at the very beginning of the book. And I was like, this is a vibe and I love it so much. Like, oh my God, it is so good. So highly recommend that people check out the Emily Henry Reddit. There's also a lot of fun like fan casting and stuff like that for the projects and things of that nature. So yeah, nice. It's a good time.
I briefly thought you were going to say somebody said they were like Daphne's father's whatever wife, girlfriend. What was her name?
Star?
Star something.
Yeah, like Star or something. Yeah, the one that has relived the version of Titanic but has never heard of the film Titanic. Yes, I love that book. I love that book.
Maybe I'll reread Funny Story. Yeah, it gave me like New Girl vibes. I might. It's just so chaotically fun sometimes, but yeah. But I'm curious as like how the rereads will reshuffle the ranking.
Yeah, for sure. Well, this has been delightful, ladies. Thank you for joining me once again to profess our love for Emily Henry. We will meet again with people we meet on vacation in film format. But thank you all for joining us. You can let us know below what you thought of Great Big Beautiful Life and where it fits in your Emily Henry ranking. Everyone, tell everyone where they can find you and all of that fun internet YouTube stuff.
If Simon Jimenez is mentioned on The Wind, I will be there.
He's there.
All joking aside, She Was Only Evie is my channel name. I don't post regularly, if at all. But yeah, if you like tier ranking videos every 6 months, that's pretty much the only thing I do.
Who doesn't like that?
Listen, no one I know.
I will do them until they're 6 feet under, and then I'll keep digging.
There you go. More. Perfect.
It's gonna be
and Yolanda?
I am one half of StoryTube is the channel name. It's StoryTube with 2 O's instead of UBE. And that is the main place you can find me. I am occasionally on Discord, and I'm very bad at checking my messages. So YouTube is where you find me. Yeah.
Cool. All right, everybody. Thanks for hanging out with us, and we will see you when we get word of people we meet on vacation.
Next week, Laura's book is out.
My book is out next week. That is true. I'm matching with the cover right now. Inadvertently, but there we go. Yolanda has read it. So
I have read
There
a
you go.
version of it.
Yeah, you have. It's been
I
a while.
assume it's like evolved since.
Probably. Yeah. I can't even remember, but we can talk about that off screen. All right. Bye.
Bye.